am a formerly undocumented immigrant. I was undocumented for 27 years before recently adjusting my status. I'm here to share my journey to humanize an issue that often fails to consider the lived experiences of those most affected, and to shed light on the untapped potential that exists among the undocumented community. I came to this country in 1995 with my parents and my younger brother. We came on a tourist visa that expired shortly after we arrived. We left family and friends behind that we wouldn't see for 20 or 30 years. At the time in Mexico, there was an economic recession that left my father without a job, and he was faced with the difficult decision to leave his home country in search of better economic opportunities. My brother and I enrolled in elementary school and were placed in ESL classes. I knew I was undocumented early on, but I didn't really fully comprehend what that meant. All I knew is that I shouldn't be disclosing my status and that I had to make up stories about my immigration. The expectations had always been high, growing up with a very strict mother, but coming to this country and being undocumented multiplied that. I had to become an overachiever, a perfectionist, and I slowly learned to bury feelings under my work and my achievements. I excelled in math very early on, and it was a subject that I gravitated toward, given the fact that it didn't require full knowledge of the English language. This allowed me to do well in testing and move to a different school on the good side of town, where I embraced the college-going culture, and I pretended to fit in. I took AP classes, participated in extracurricular activities, made a list of all the different colleges and universities that I would apply to. But despite being on the same track as everyone else, I knew that I did not have the same opportunities because of my immigration status. When I was 14 years old, I experienced the first family loss. My grandfather was my hero. And one morning I woke up and I knew in my heart that he had passed away. And I shed tears silently. I didn't really understand what was more sad, him passing away or us not being able to be there for his last few days. You see, as undocumented individuals, if we left the country, we would trigger what's called a 10-year bar, meaning that we couldn't come back for 10 years. My entire family mourned in silence, and we never even talked about the pain that we experienced as a result of this. This was the first time where I began to hide my vulnerabilities to project strength for my family. My brother and I were able to enroll in elementary school because there's a Supreme Court case called Plyler versus Doe that allows all children, regardless of immigration status, to enroll in K-12 education. After high school, there's a lot of uncertainty because states get to decide access to higher education for undocumented students. In 2005, when I graduated from high school, California was only one of 2 states that allowed undocumented students to pay in-state tuition instead of being treated as international students. However, they didn't have state financial aid. I applied and was accepted to the majority of schools that I applied to, but I couldn't figure out how to pay as a low-income student without financial aid. I was very fortunate to have received an invitation from the Smith-Camp Family Honors College at California State University, Fresno. And even though the university is a state institution, the program was privately funded and there were no stipulations related to immigration status. That's how I was able to enroll in college as an undocumented student, where I thought that I was the only one that was undocumented. I very early on became interested in understanding my own immigration story and wondering, why was I undocumented? Why was life so challenging for us? And why do so many millions of people have to leave their home country in search of better opportunities? I gravitated toward math and economics. I believe that I further buried my emotions or feelings about my experience in doing that. And I knew that I wanted to pursue graduate school, and at the time, I had no idea how I was going to do that. I began to look for different research opportunities, the same way other students would, but because of my immigration status, anytime that I applied and was asked for a social security number, my application would be revoked. I ultimately ended up knocking on doors and found amazing faculty and mentors who helped me create new opportunities for myself that would then be open to others down the road. And in 2009, I completed my degree in mathematics with plenty of research experience. The next hurdle became trying to figure out how to go to graduate school as an undocumented student. Despite the grades, the research experience, and test scores, I was told that a PhD was impossible for an undocumented student like me. So I thought I'll apply to master's programs, and by this time, I was ready to leave the country in search of opportunities. So I applied to programs in Mexico, Canada, and the United States. I was admitted to a master's program in the New School for Social Research, and I ended up taking a leap of faith and moving to New York, Washington Heights, in fact, not too far away from here. It was my dream. I was in New York, and I was having the best time of my life. But it only lasted a few months, because unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how to continue to pay for the degree. I ended up moving back to California, and this was the very first time in my life where I felt truly defeated. And I think my entire family felt defeated, because I had worked so hard to break down barriers, and it felt like nothing I had done mattered. This was the loneliest and most desperate time of my life trying to figure out next steps. I knew I had the skills, the education, the drive, but there was nothing I could do to fix my immigration status. At this point, I began to think that maybe I was never going to be good enough, and that maybe I didn't even belong in this country. This led to a spiraling depression that many friends and family who see this may actually not even know, because I've done such a good job of having a smile on my face and pretending that everything is going to be okay. I came across an amazing organization named Educators for Fair Consideration, E4FC, trying saying that a few times and then translating to Spanish. We are now called Immigrants Rising, where I proudly serve as the executive director. I had hit rock bottom, and I was lifted by the tantalizing energy and positivity that everyone embraced as a community. I got the opportunity to connect with other individuals like me who had gone through college and were exploring opportunities. That positive energy was contagious, and I began to research opportunities post-college for myself and others. I ended up finding out that professional and graduate school was in fact an opportunity for undocumented students at private universities with private funding. The most important part of this research was learning that opportunities existed to earn a living regardless of immigration status. This is through entrepreneurship. The reason this is a possibility is because anyone, regardless of status, can work through self-employment as an independent contractor or a business owner without needing a work authorization or a Social Security card. Even though my father had been an entrepreneur for many years, I didn't realize this was actually a pathway for myself and others. I wrote several guides. I did a variety of different webinars and workshops. And I myself began to work as an independent contracting, doing a variety of different gigs, some math tutoring, some marketing, some promotion, and even some event coordinating. In one of these events that I was coordinating, I came across Professor and my future mentor, Professor William Perez. At the time, Professor Perez was studying access to higher education for undocumented students. And as a social justice professor, he believed that research subjects should not just be research, but actually be trained to conduct research. As such, he spearheaded a fellowship that was aimed at supporting undocumented students interested in pursuing PhDs. The 21st Century Civil Rights Fellowship was the first of its kind at Claremont Graduate University. I was invited to apply for the program, and I enrolled in January of 2012. I had amazing opportunities to conduct research in a variety of immigration issues and acquired extensive quantitative research training in the economics department. I successfully completed my master's in economics in 2015 and a PhD in education policy in 2018. The second year of my PhD studies, DACA was announced. It was announced in June of 2012. And it was thanks to advocates and allies who pushed President Obama to create a program that would grant work authorization and relief of deportation for undocumented young individuals. We knew the program was incomplete, but it was better than nothing, and it got many individuals out of the shadows. I became a DACA recipient in 2013, and I renewed every 2 years, every 2 years with paying a processing fee of $495. Becoming a DACA recipient opened up many new opportunities to participate in research projects and hone my skills as a researcher. But every time I applied, I wonder if it would be the last time. Unfortunately, the DACA program didn't. The program was rescinded in 2017 by the Trump administration. And since then, no new DACA recipients have been allowed to apply, only renewals are available. We're currently planning for the potential sunsetting of this program, and all current DACA recipients could potentially lose their jobs. While I benefited from DACA and now been able to adjust my status, there's an estimated 98,000 undocumented high school students wondering about the next steps the same way that I did almost 20 years ago. It almost feels like we've gone full circle in the wrong way. But since I graduated from high school, a lot has changed. There's been a lot of advocacy led by undocumented young people, and to this day, 34 states and DC have some access to higher education. And students have many more opportunities related to advocacy efforts and the amazing work that nonprofit organizations have done. For over 15 years, Immigrants Rising has been focused on the slivers of opportunity that do exist for undocumented young people. We offer a holistic approach to programming that follows an undocumented individual's nonlinear journey, whether it be pursuit of higher education, career training, income generation through entrepreneurship, or access to mental health and legal services. Over the past decade at Immigrants Rising, I focused on entrepreneurship. And what we found is that every single undocumented person has the skills to become an entrepreneur. This is because we're resilient, creative, and have a relentless drive to succeed. We heard multiple stories of individuals growing up selling scrunchies, candy at school, helping their parents at the family restaurant, helping their parents sell at the local flea markets. At Immigrants Rising, we harnessed this incredible energy and turned it into a movement called the Undocu Hustle, which brings opportunities for all regardless of immigration status. And I ask, what would happen if we embraced this idea and tapped into the vast pool of talent among the undocumented community? Consider Chris, an immigrant from the Philippines who grew up in York, in fact, just a few stops away from here. He completed his bachelor's, master's, and became a PhD candidate at age 21. Chris was not eligible for DACA, but he very early on learned about entrepreneurship as an avenue to put his education and mentorship and leadership skills to work. He founded a company that leverages tech to offer training and support to young professionals. He's helped over 3,000 students earn over $1.5 million in scholarships and career opportunities. He now contracts with local governments, school districts, and nonprofit organizations to meet the demand for career readiness. Chris has partnered with us at Immigrants Rising and has created multiple resources and programming to inform the undocumented community about entrepreneurship and career readiness. It has been my privilege to watch Chris be so successful and not let his immigration status get in the way of his dreams. We've come a long way since I was lost trying to navigate life after college on my own. We now have organizations and people like Chris who can help pave the way. And there may be more individuals like Chris, but they may not know that opportunities actually do exist for them. So there's an opportunity at colleges and universities to integrate entrepreneurship curriculum as a career pathway for the students that are experiencing barriers to employment. There are also opportunities to partner with business schools that can provide training and support. The same way that it's important to provide support to undocumented students looking to navigate college and access to career opportunities, it is equally as important to address mental health. For me, it took years to address my mental health, in part because it was difficult to find anyone who actually understood my struggles and my story. And it really wasn't until I finished my PhD where I had the mental space to even think about my emotions. I went through an emotional roller coaster when DACA was rescinded, leading to a breakdown that pushed me to seek mental health support. I found my amazing therapist, Sue, through Immigrants Rising Mental Health Connector. It's an amazing service that constantly has a wait list because there's such a high demand for mental health professionals who understand the immigrant experience. And there are individuals like Myra who are eager to close this gap. Despite many obstacles, including not being eligible for DACA and having long gaps in her education, Myra completed the educational requirements but became stuck when it came time to fulfill the hours that were needed for the professional license. She researched and designed a program at Immigrants Rising that allows undocumented students to acquire hours of training through a fellowship program. A cohort of 6 individuals received training over the course of 1 year and completed classes in entrepreneurship. And they are all on their way to offer services to many more undocumented individuals through entrepreneurship. I recently watched her in a pitch competition, and she received a standing ovation for her amazing work. There's an opportunity to increase access to mental health services through state-level advocacy efforts to increase professional licensing for undocumented students, and opportunities to create career programmings in colleges and universities that take into consideration the lack of work authorization. Had I not found the amazing mentors, faculty, friends, a community, I wouldn't be standing here sharing my story. But my story is not unique. I am one of thousands of individuals with new ideas, skills, and innovation that can be catalyzed for greater good. Immigration is a natural phenomenon, and we should expect immigration to be part of our lives the way it's been for our entire history. I understand there's no easy solution, and I understand that we may never get to a perfect solution, but I strongly believe that all human beings deserve dignity and the same opportunities to thrive regardless of status. The time to act is now. The pursuit of a more equitable and inclusive society starts with you, with us, with a collective commitment to change. It's time to bridge gaps, extend a helping hand, and open our hearts and minds to the richness that immigrants bring to this country. So I ask you all today to work to build a future where dignity and opportunity are not just words, but the foundation of a shared American dream. Thank you.